Fucking roof! Nicely, that was just going straight in.
Going down like a one-legged man doing the okey-cokey.
Okey-cokey.
All right.
Ladies and mungeyes, welcome back to another session on the rooftop with another glorious sunset. Not such a glorious looking face in front of me though, is there?
I do try.
You've fucking scrubbed up nicely for this one, mate. I tell you what, I've never seen you look so
4 days without a shave. Dude. I thought, I better make an effort today.
Like, where's the real G? Yeah, we've got G from owner of the Orchard and well-known music pusher on this little island. I'm feeling once again as hungover as you can imagine. But,
medicine for your hangover, young man.
G has kindly donated. We're not sponsored by Captain Morgan. Captain Morgan is sponsored by G, and my life is sponsored by whiskey. And what do we got here? Some Grey Goose.
Little, for the ladies.
Well done, lad. So how are you feeling? What's going on?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Bit of a busy week as per usual.
As per usual. When are you ever not busy, mate?
Next week.
What are you doing next week?
Well, next week we drop into 3 nights instead of... to be honest, all of August we've pretty much done 6 days of... Yeah, I've got one.
Lighter.
God, smoking on camera, disgusting.
Who would have thought? I don't smoke. I'm not a social smoker, I'm a camera smoker.
No, since the end of July, really, through August into September, we've pretty much had live music nights 6 nights a week, so... about 20 plus events per month, which is kind of starting to take its toll a little bit, but nothing but love of music. Are you busy? Shall I come back? Don't mind me.
No, you've been smashing it down there, and I've watched you progressively turn into just a hermit of the Orchard. Like mate, just trying to get a coffee with you outside of the Orchard is almost near impossible. I actually only started this whole podcast so I could hang out with you outside of the I've got to get you on camera before you even talk to me face to face, you mung-eye.
To be honest, it's not really the event. I just don't like you very much.
I'm starting to get that impression, mate. You're just trying to reach thousands through me. No, you've been flat out down there, dude. So, how are you with it all? You've been working your ass off, and you haven't got people micromanaging from what I'm seeing. You're just in there brutally, you're booking everyone. There's so much to do down at the Orchard because it's expanded so much. I mean, what was it? 2 years ago. You came up to it was called Finn's Beach Club at the time, right? Yeah. Back before it was Sunday's Beach Club. And I was doing a gig and we chatted and you're like, man, I just want to get some music going at the bar. And at the time it was the English pub. It was when you initially opened the Orchard, were you actually thinking music at the time, or were you like, I want to open another restaurant and I want it to be a cool English pub? Was music involved?
To be honest, as you already know, music's it's a huge part of my life, not just a passion. And from having a place for 9 years, the other end of town, Cooter direction.
That was Dog Dragon, right?
Dog Dragon, yeah.
Cooter. That was your baby.
The last year that we were there, we actually started putting on a couple of just acoustic nights. Just one guitar and an amp, and it was always the direction I wanted to go. But to be honest, we didn't have the ability to be able to expand where we were, and even so, there's not really the clientele who would appreciate really good music.
I imagine
spent a lot of money,
you get a lot of walk-ins, coming in to look at a bit of music, but they'd probably be a pretty quick drunk crowd down there, right? Like sort of party it up and then leave and forget the next day. Thanks, buddy.
It was. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I loved that era, and it taught me a lot about the industry that I'm in now, and the rough with the smooth. I'll never forget that. That was the grassroots. That was the foundations for what we're doing now. And the last year that we were actually in Dog Dragon, it became very apparent to me that it was. I'd hit the growth as far as I could take that place.
You took it to a good place. I mean, it was really popular. Every time I was in there, there was always at least 3 or 4 guys coming through, saying g'day to you with a familiarity that was apparent due to their constant coming back 3 or 4 times a year to Bali and going back to Dog Dragon.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it was that, and a lot of the crew that were actually coming into Cooter, a lot of that crew had actually moved away from Cooter, and they were living close to the Seminyak, Peritanget, Canggu, Umalas, as Cooter just got kind of as we used to call it, the bubble of stupidity. You know, it was you get locked into that, and yeah, well, you know yourself, man.
Oh, mate, I've been through the Cooter days.
Have you been there before?
We've all been down to the old Cooter bubble. How do I get off this train?
So yeah, after about 9 years, anyway, I spent 6 months looking for a location, and I looked in Canggu, and I looked in Brower and Petty Tenga, Batu Balik and Seminyak and all around those areas, but a couple of people called it suicide when I first did it, at the fact that it was slightly off the beaten track. And
mate, people were telling Sean that owns Old Man's that he was committing suicide, you know, buying up out there and putting Old Man's out there. But look how fast this place expands. I mean, when you showed me the spot where the orchard is, I remember thinking, this is a little bit out of the way. Like, you're going to have to do some great advertising. But but then you
see for us as well, that one thing which stuck in my mind for a long time, especially about Kuta, is that the walking traffic wasn't really appreciative of what we had. So if we put something on really good, people that actually are really, really into music, for lack of a better explanation, who are really, really deep into music, will come and find us. You know, and this is
well, that's what's happened.
Where we now get. It's not just walking trade and people expecting top 40 cover bands. What we put out there as the image, the whole ethos behind who we are, is that we are, you know, we're putting out their original music, and that if you like music, then people will come and find us. And this is the crowd that we're getting now, is that we get a solid music lovers crowd. It's not just a boozy crowd that likes a bit of a knees up. It's music lovers who you know.
Well, yeah, people are referring to it as a music venue, and that's, you know, people are pouring in for that reason. Whether it's they've heard, you know, I've got people that have heard about it in Sydney, and they've said, "Oh, I've heard about this place called the Orchard, great music venue."
Nice.
Yeah, which is fantastic, because it just honestly, when you first spoke to me about it, I was thinking, oh, it's an English pub, and you want to get some guy in the corner playing some tunes and probably some, you know, English Brit pop or something, pumping out to keep them going. But it's certainly transformed since then. It'll
definitely be in a book at some point. That was for me. It's that moment on Finn's Beach when the fire was good, and without being too romantic with you,
it was a romantic moment. I was more thinking kill the pigs, slit his throat, SOUNDCLOUD. Like, who's getting off this island alive? But, you know,
it was a very, very poignant moment that sticks in my head that's where the initial conversation first began, and the initial conversation about where I want to take it and what we could do with it. And obviously, you being my mate, and I love your music and everything that you do on this island as well, the crossovers with Indonesian music, that you speak Indonesian as well. It just seemed the logical step, you know. And I suppose it was that night by the fire at Finn's. It was, the music nights were born at the Orchard. Were we open at that point, or was that just before we opened?
I'm not sure that you were even open.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great beginning. It was great for me to be part of it. Like, you know, they were good nights, and just seeing it build myself. You know, I think I played there for, I don't know how long, 6 months to a year.
8 months. Like that, yeah.
Somewhere between 6 months and a year. And in that time, more and more people were coming in, and then all of a sudden it was jamming with Dadang and all these different guys, and RA on board, and
you pulled Rebecca Rajman from Jakarta through Death.
That's right, yeah. Rebecca Rajman came down, and that was the first full band gig, and then it was like, hang on, this can be a full band venue.
That was it, man. I mean, when we first discussed it, and it was like, do you know what? I'm not sure if it'll work with drums, because this was before we knocked the middle wall out, and it was quite. I mean, it's not confined, but it kind of is. You know, when you've at one point there. We had 104 people in like 1 hour of land out the back, and that was the sort of kick up the arse that I needed to go. Do you know what? I've got to take that wall out and just open it up, and plus, people get to actually see right through from outside now as well. So it's good. You can either stand or sit outside.
The middle wall you're talking about.
The middle
that
wall,
made a huge difference. Yeah, it did open it up, and you know, as far as expanding from here, I mean. What to you is sort of your end game? You've I see you working your ass off, and your private life's just diminished to a fucking could sit on the tip of a needle if you could find
life?
it. Yeah, what life?
My friends and my family have disowned me because I just don't return messages or phone calls. They
actually consider the Orchard their son now. Like, who's this Graeme dude?
People have given up actually trying to contact me on my own personal social media, and they just send messages to the Orchard, which our social media team forces on very angrily to me.
Just fields them off.
That's it. Yeah.
You can talk to him next week. We've got an opening. So you know, what's the end game? Like, am I going to be, you know, in 5 years you're going to be sitting here in your boxers and some big leather slippers, smoking.
I actually would have been sitting in my boxers today, but Phil told me not to.
Mate, I would have accepted it. Anything for the camera, bro.
I'm a speedo man, to be honest. No, well, I mean,
you got to be careful up here, though, mate. Anything could, you know, someone sees you in boxers, they'll start taking pot shots from the rice fields. You'll get a slog of mud in your eye.
It's a bit of a drop to me.
It's a bit of a drop. Well. It's probably the most dangerous podcast you'll ever do, and I certainly hope no one that is feeling in any way depressed comes up to do the podcast with me.
How ironic.
Yeah. It's all right. We've got some depressant lubricant here to sort out those issues. Chin. So last weekend was a pretty massive weekend. I think you finally got out and about. Like, Phil and I were at Carl Cox, trying to be good. And then I started getting, and I didn't even know you were there, and then I started getting these pictures coming through on my phone of you with Carl Cox in some back room, just giving me the birdie. I'm like, what? Where is he? Like, when did that happen? I didn't even know you were going. How did that happen?
So, as you know, I've followed music for a long time in the UK as well, and the scene where I come from in the UK, I'm North Yorkshire, so this northeast scene, it's very tight knit, and there's so many good music venues and so many good sort of things coming to different areas, which are only realistically an hour away. So we've got like Leeds, York, Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, Sunderland, which are all known for having, you know, a real good underground music scene. I used to follow this a lot round when I was younger, you know.
Were you more into live music or DJ music, or just a mix of both, or whatever?
To be honest, I've been
wherever the party was.
That's it. Right since I remember the first sort of times with my old man about getting absolutely rollicked senseless. He's still got all these old Beatles albums, like, Rubber Soul, and
just as you managed to crawl out of the crib and you just pull a chair over, pull a chair over and climb on it and get up to Dad's liquor cabinet while he was out.
Bit of liquor, bit of music.
What are you drinking?
It's just milk. Started rooting through music back then, and then I suppose it just went from there. And I used to talk to people about music and be like, "Oh, have you heard this? Have you heard?" People used to look at me in a bit weirdly, like, and I thought it was just everyone was into music that much. And as I've got older, a lot older this last week, as I've got older over the years, I've realised that it's not quite that. Music really resonates with me, and I like the fact that every single definitive point, good or bad in my life, I can always pick a song which either illuminates that incident or the sense of nostalgia that brings. I mean, such as Life with Music, you know, it does have a very unusual way of igniting memories and such as, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the most beautiful thing. It literally is, music is a soundtrack to our lives.
To your life,
you know? And, and it's those, you know, I guess to me it's what makes the current sort of whole music pop top 40 situation. It's what makes it shallow in my eyes, and you know, I know.
Started, man.
I know. And you know, there's that whole thing of different generations, different tastes, and all that kind of stuff. But I really think that this quick fix music, where something comes in and it's in your life for about 5 minutes, and you sing it all day, it's stuck in your head all week, and then you get sick of it and you want the next song. I don't think those songs that are just churned out on the top 40 really do that for people the same way. Man. True music has done in the past with albums and that kind of thing, where you hear an album that you were listening to at a certain time in your life and you are back there, whether you're like, I can't believe she broke up with me, I'm only 13. Whether it's
Have you got your cameras in my house?
Whether it's that or whether it's an absolutely mystical moment, you know, on your listening to a song on your iPod on the top of a mountain or whatever it is, that you're right, it ignites memories, you know, it floods you back with whatever was going on at the time.
Just what you're saying there, about the current state of the music industry drives me insane, man. The wealth of talent, not just on this island but throughout Indonesia, is incredible, you know. And we generally have something music orientated on TV in the Orchard, you know, and music these days is generally 12 people on stage in the
gyrating,
skimpiest outfits possible, hip thrust in the camera with 4 chords and some trance shit beat going in the background. Am I allowed to say that on camera?
It's soft porn with a crappy background. Like the music's slightly better than porn music, but it's soft porn with.
What porn have you been watching?
Shit.
Don't answer. I mean.
Let's say that music doesn't make a soundtrack to my life. It doesn't bring back good memories. Well, some of them are okay.
5 o'clock in the morning, they're not by the way.
Yeah, mate. It's all. Yep, it is what it is.
But yeah, I mean, for me, like, especially there's that few artists and there's that little support now, pushing musicians, singer-songwriters through the ranks, because bands are so easily made and bands are so easy. All it is, it's just a cash cow now, cash cow. It's just about turning money over, you know. Had gone as that time of, well, not gone, it's still there, but I suppose this is a whole ethos behind what we're trying to do at the Orchard, is to springboard musicians and get them the recognition that they deserve. You know, anybody who's living on this island, who's contributing to this island and the music scene as well, we'll do our utmost to sort of push them to the next step. And that basically goes hand in hand with any band or musician or a group that we actually book for the Orchard. We always ask them for original material. You know, it always has to be minimum 70-30. So as long as you've got 30% of your original music, then that's great. You're more than welcome to play it. It doesn't matter how good they are. It could be the best top 40 band in the world, but we still ask that they, you know, actually have their own original material. And the thing is, even if they don't, it's a slight kick up the arse for people to start
thinking about it.
Pen to paper. Anyone who can play music can write lyrics, because it's in them, you know. It really is.
Well, there's a lot of people that, like you said, if you say to a band, even if they only play covers, if you say, look, you can play here, but you have to pull your original music out. There's a lot of bands that have got original music on the back burner. They want to get around to it, but they really do feel like they're only going to get the gigs if they're playing the covers, and then they just never give the covers the time that they need. So it's a great rule. If you're saying to them, look, we want you to play, but not until you're a great band, but you can't get on stage until you've got this amount of originals ready to go. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That gives them a reason to go to the rehearsal studio and go, let's work on these original tracks.
For me as well, it brings it back to musicianship as well. That, yeah, I understand some of these bands, they earn really good money and they do really well out of doing cover music, you know. But for me personally, when I look at the industry, there's this void, especially here. There's this void between bands that are doing covers or musicians that are doing covers, and then there's this void between bands that are doing originals. And the bands that are doing originals now, like big bands, you know, example Dialogue Dini or Navicular or someone like that, they're doing their original music, and there is this void. But at some point they had to cross that no man's land of, will people accept our original music? And it's a bit of a leap of faith, and I understand that.
It's a huge leap of faith.
But the point being is, if they have support and we're willing to pay them to actually do this as well, and if we can push people, really, really push them. I don't just mean within Indonesia, but, you know, in surrounding islands and surrounding countries such as KL, Singapore. I mean, Australia's right on our doorstep as well, and we've already had quite a few musicians of ours that we've pushed to certain festivals or pushed to certain venues, and people have seen them, and we've had them in Australia, and we've had them in Singapore, and we've got a couple of musicians who've just been to Russia. We've got a musician who's in Holland at the moment as well, you know. And this is people who are actually international sort of people who are involved in the music
standard, man. I mean, and I've seen them evolve at the Orchard too. Like I've seen, you know, guys like Athron and the Island Souls. I mean, I saw his first gigs there, and I see them play now, and I'm like, man, they have, you know, like
come a long way.
Yeah, even if, and you know, a residency can be good and bad. You can be playing in the same venue for a long time, and there can be nights where you can just think in the back of your head, it's a job, and I've got to, you know, I'm not up for it tonight, but I've got to go in because you're there every week, it's so familiar to you. You don't have that same rush of excitement because you've been doing it for a long time. But the truth is, even if that's the case, you just, every time you get up there, you're sharpening your skills. You're in front of a live audience. They're going to react to what you're doing, and you just, even subconsciously, you're going to learn. Yeah. Don't play that song again. Do play that again. That. When Iwanos went off on the keys, then that worked. Let's give him a key solo at that point in that song next time. Yeah. So it's constant growth, absolutely. Yeah. And
this is one of the things what does when you say how do you keep doing it, and you put a lot of hours in. It's these things which keep me sane. I've never really been sane.
Yeah, I think sanity's might be a strong word, but
it's not a strong point for me.
It's not a strong point, but it is why we get along.
Amen.
I do have images of you wearing a garbage bin on your head, sitting on the ground in Circle K some years back. Oh yeah, no, that image is strong, mate. That image is strong. I'm sure it's in my photo file somewhere.
I'm sure it was on that birthday video, actually. You know?
Yeah. Hey, look at that. There's the viewers can't see that right now, but that's a gung right there, right?
Oh, yeah,
is that a gung?
Yeah.
Are we about to watch the moment?
We could die on camera, you know.
Wow, this could be it. We could have, this could be the shot of the century. We do have warnings at the moment about Argung being on the edge of, eruption's a big word, but eruption could come in the form of a few metres. It's spraying like 50 metres, right? That was the last report. And people are getting evacuated from the near vicinity.
65 on it, 63 last time.
I got up to 63 or 65, huh? Yeah, I mean, that's still pretty high, man. Like,
no, I mean, when it last went off.
Oh, sorry, sorry, the year.
That was very accurate, 63 metres.
Yeah, mate, I'm like, wow, you're really onto your maths. Like, you're up there.
Who's measuring
the stones.
that?
You're like, velocity check. No, that stone didn't hit 62, definite 63. You climb, what mountain did you climb recently? You were up?
I went up a bang to clear my head.
And
I came back down and got told off by the cameraman for double booking. Sorry, Phil.
What? That's right. Double booked poor old Phil Stoodley.
Yeah,
left him in the lurch.
My apologies, Phil and Denny.
Yeah, the pleasures of having too many people wanting to play at your venue. What was the mountain? A bang.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's good.
How's the climb?
It's one of the least. The reason I went up it is it's one of the least climbed, and it's not particularly easy. But to be honest, it was one of those.
You don't want easy when you're climbing a mountain.
You don't want.
Does anyone really want easy? Unless it's. I mean, okay, the Instagram world wants easy.
Yeah.
Look where I am. Like, make it look hard. Actually, then you turn the camera off. You get back in your helicopter and you go back down the mountain. You get back in your sauna. Like, that's easy. But do you want easy climbing a mountain? I don't think so.
Nah. That kind of. I suppose I really needed that sense of achievement back as well, because there's been a lot of things this season which I've had to just push to the side while we're doing so many events that have kind of a lot of ideas and things projects that have had to be put on hold because we are just so busy with the live music, and subliminally I think it was one of those, right,
you need to climb a
mountain. Yeah.
I need some literal perspective on my life. There it is down there. Holy shit. What the fuck is that? That black spot down there. Like, look at the condensation and the mold growing on that thing. I'm going to get down there and clear some shit up.
It was very decent. And the fact that there was only like 20 people on the, at the summit when we actually
that's pretty good, because Argung I've seen photos of Argung, and, I guess it's the classic thing. Everyone wants to climb the mountain in Bali, but I've seen the photos where you actually see what's going on, and it's bumper to bumper. Like, people are just bumping shoulders, and there's rubbish all over the sides, and it's quite sad.
We got about 40 minutes into the climb, and the guide who we were with, he said, "Oh, you're at the height of Batua now, that's the most frequently climbed one. Batua is the smallest."
Batua, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. There's a lot of people. Yeah.
And it just looked like someone was holding a rope, like an LED rope, and was just sort of flicking it like this round Batua.
Oh, that was all the torches.
And that's all the torches.
You're kidding.
And when I actually asked the guide, I said, "All right, roughly how many people do you get up there per day?" He's like, about 500 per day.
It literally looked like an LED light strung around the mountain, because the torches were all so close together. That's mental.
It was insane. And I tried a couple of photos, but just, wouldn't take with the darkness. But it was nice that we were only sort of 40 minutes in. Nice in one sense that we're 40 minutes in and we're at the height of Batua. But not so nice when he said, there's about 2.5 hours to go yet. Okay.
But that's the bit you appreciate once you're back down the mountain. I climbed Rinjani a bunch of years ago now. But, it was probably the physically one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
And second was probably climbing onto this roof. But but no, it was.
I should be getting danger money for this, by the way.
Mate, yeah.
My rucksack hooked on the wind on the way out.
Mail, mate. Maybe we could just balance it out with all the. Actually, I owe you a shitload of money for all the whiskey. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and crack a joke about you owe me money, mate. I've drunk more of your bar than you probably even know. The nudie probably knows.
Little does he know it's on the tab.
It's always on the tab, mate. At at my funeral, my mum's going to get a bill in the mail. By the way, Athron drank all this.
It's about the size of Santa's naughty list.
We're hoping to renovate, so if you could just sort that out. I climbed. You know my cousin Patrick, right? Patrick Toller? Yeah. He and I years ago. We got dirt bikes in Bali, and we cut across the Lombok, and we did a whole lap of Lombok, and we were going to beautiful dirt bike escape, and we were going to keep going east, just island hopping, and then we just thought, you know what? Should we climb Mount Rinjani? And it was on such a whim. Yeah. Like, there's a mountain there. I mean, I've heard you can climb it. You can climb it, right? Oh, how hard could it be? Everything's easy in Indonesia, right? Like, we can do this. Like, we've been living in
Thongs
Bali.
and vest.
Yeah. So I've got my streetwear slip-ons on, and like this, like a jacket that's so thin, it would have stopped like 1% of a scab forming if I'd come off my bike. Like, it was.
Was it black?
It was probably black. I don't want to shock you, but my colour code hasn't changed much over the years. And, mate, we found a guide to take us up to the top of the mountain, and we bargained so hard. I mean, we were in that real travel mode because we weren't living here at the time. We were just travelling through, so we're on fuck all money, and we're like in bargain mode. So we bargained this guy hard, thinking he was really pushing it with the prices. So we got him right down, and then eventually we go on this climb, and man, it was hard. Like, it was really hard.
Like 2 days, isn't it? 2 days.
It was three and a half days, like 2.5 days up, and then half a day, a bit more to get down. But I mean, the way up, like we hadn't even made it to the first stop point, and the guide is like, we had a porter carrying shit and carrying bags and everything, and he goes, oh look, the porter's wondering if we can just stay here and not get to the first base, and we were like, oh.
Tell him to man up.
We kind of want to get to first base. I mean, we were exhausted, but first base, you got to get. You can't just stop. And we were confused because that's their job, and we're arguing. And he goes, "Oh, the reason is because there's usually 2 porters." And we were like, oh my God, what have we done?
You basically pack us job off.
Oh mate, we had no idea. We were like, oh shit, sorry dude, give us the bags. So we unloaded this guy and took it all on our own shoulders, and he's like, oh thanks. And we're like, no man, like we didn't mean to bargain that hard. We're sorry. Like, I thought I was a good bargainer. I didn't know I was an asshole bargainer.
Taking money from his children's mouths.
Oh fuck. Anyway, but incredible climb, and but the last part was just hellish. Like, as you're saying, like, you sort of think, are we there yet? And then they're like, oh no, the final 3 hours is here now. And you're just like, can we do this? And it was mental, harsh winds just caning up over the mountaintop. My tiny little jacket I would have died.
Just cut straight through.
Yeah. Like, luckily we thought, let's grab our sleeping bags and bring them up with us. And then these mate, I'll admit it, we almost flaked. We were like, this is full on. And then these gorgeous two Canadian girls walk up with these, mountain climbing legs, and they're like, how you going, boy? And we're like, we're coming, we're fine, we're good, we're ahead of you, in fact. What are you talking about? Keep up, girls. Jesus, what's going on? Like, I swear to God, that's the only reason we got to the top. We're like,
motivation.
I'm not flaking out now. Have you done much travelling around Indonesia, or you've been pretty solidly in Bali?
Yeah, I mean, originally, the first time I came to Bali was 20 years ago, so, well, no, it's longer anyway, now it'll be 21 years ago, and it was back, we were using, what were we using at the time? Frommers, I think, the Frommers Guide. Frommers, it's like the rough guide to, it's the same sort of book as that.
Sounds pretty rough.
And
like, if I was going to call a really dirt fucking raw venue where everyone goes to vomit at the end of the night, I'd call it Frommers. You still going? Yeah, mate, I'm just sitting down at Frommers.
Well, I had this book and my mate back home, and we get great waves back in Yorkshire back home, but obviously the weather plays a part, and we for a good 5 months of the year we're in wetsuits and it snows and stuff like that, and the appealing sort of all year summer with waves all year round, perfect offshore winds, and if the west coast isn't working, then the east coast working. It was this sort of thing which was really appealing to us, and we'd always surf France and through Europe and Morocco and Spain, Portugal. I'd done a bit in Australia and the Canaries and everywhere like this, and I finally got here, and I actually intended to stay for 3 weeks the first time I came.
What year was this? How far back?
Oh, so 39. I was
63.
just 8. It's a long way off that roof, you know. It's a long way off that roof, you know.
The rocks flying out of a gung. What are you talking about? 63 metres high.
No, it was sort of 20 years ago, 21 years ago, whatever it was. So 98, 99, something like that.
Little youngin'.
Somewhere like that, yeah. And I remember getting here and just being completely blown away. It's like nothing else I've ever experienced, you know, the culture and the people and everything like that. It was just so different. And then I met some of the. I actually met Marcelo from the Hydrant.
Oh, from the Hydrant.
Yeah, back then I met him as a lifeguard. Like,
I think I heard you say this the other day when we bumped into him in Warrungdua. Yeah, you met him on the beach all those years ago.
Yeah, and he was surfing. We started chatting. He was always playing acoustic guitar, and how ironic, I didn't really see the guy again until I booked him about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, and he walks in and we're both stood looking at each other in the eyes going, "Where I fucking know you from somewhere, man, where do I know you?" And then we started going through the timeline as you always do with Bali, and then it was like that moment where we went, "Oh my God, that was you! That was you 20 years ago."
Did you have long hair or anything back then? Or?
I did have quite long hair.
I just knew you would have had long hair back then. Doing the head flick.
You know the drill.
You were doing the head flick even in mid-surf barrel, weren't you? Like, just in case.
I do still try. But yeah, that's kind of where it started for me, Bali, and then I was intending to stay for 3 weeks, met all the Padma boys, they showed me some cheap accommodation, showed me the street food and how cheap you could live. So 3 weeks transpired into 3 months. I stayed for 3 months. And then almost every year after that, it was just a game plan. I needed to get back to Indonesia, because where my money would carry me in France in a van for, say, a month, I could be in Indonesia for 3 and actually live.
And what were you doing to build your finances to travel? Did you hospitality?
I was a porn star.
You're a porn star? Yeah, right, okay. I think I saw that movie. It was pretty bad, dude. Pretty bad.
Man. It was lighting.
You let everyone down. But most of all, you let yourself down.
When are you playing again?
No, what were you doing? I think I just got cancelled. All my gigs just got cancelled. No, but what were you doing? Were you in hospitality, or were you doing something completely different? Or?
No, I was actually signed to play professional football when I was 15, and I broke my arm really bad, and it was 2.5 years of surgery, skin grafts, and the bones weren't fused back together. So
what was the incident?
I played football. I actually went over the top of someone. It was just a freak accident, no one to blame, and one bone came out there and one came out there, and
jeez,
the referee threw up and
straight out the arm.
My manager passed out, and it come to the point where I'm holding everything in place with my arm, saying, "Can somebody help me?" Like, you know, it was a bit more crass than that. It was like, "Can someone fucking help me, please?" You know. It went from there, and then I realised that I couldn't do anything.
Nasty.
Couldn't do anything, man, except swim, and I couldn't train. Everything I'd known since I was a kid, like, I couldn't do, you know. So I started. A friend of mine came up to me and just said, "Oh, you should come surfing." And I did the usual UK jokes of, "Whoa, dude, you know, be surfing on a turd" and all this sort of shit, you know. And I started surfing in the middle of April,
point break jokes.
Freezing cold, loved it. And then that was when my mind started travelling elsewhere, and music and surfing. There's some weird natural crossover there, because there's a lot of my friends, anyone who's a perfect example, like, you know, musicians and surfers, there's something to be said about that, you know. There's that kind of drifty mindset, sort of, you know.
I've never managed to make that transition, but
you need to get your black clothes off first.
The board doesn't love me. Well, I can't surf in these black jeans. I'm not surfing unless I can wear the black jeans, dude. That's my rule. But that must have been a pretty major, like, at that age, if you were going into professional football and that was your thing and that was your driving passion, you must have been shattered when your arm bugged out.
Yeah, man.
Let alone watching bones sticking out of your skin. I mean, that's slightly grueling.
It was definitely an interesting moment.
Yeah,
it was, again, another real definitive point in my life where it shook me for a good year, because it was pretty much laid out in front of me. That's what I was going to do. I was with Leeds United at the time, and I'd had England trials down at Lilleshall when I was 14, and I didn't know what I was going to do, you know. And the actual the swimming thing, which then turned into surfing, all of a sudden surfing was like an epiphany. I'd never really experienced anything like that feeling that you get from surfing, you know. And I've just got memory upon memory upon memory of just driving this absolutely shagged out, battered Volkswagen Polo with the exhaust hanging off, that when you drop gear it used to backfire and this flame used to come out the exhaust like on Batman, you know. And with what was the album at the time? Stanley Road by Paul Weller. With
See,
that
here we go.
cranking
There's
out my
another
car, man.
soundtrack, another moment
That's it, yeah,
marked
yeah.
by a particular
Yeah,
album, and you know the album. I love it.
Yeah.
Gold.
And it all of a sudden, the football started. And I was still playing paid football for my hometown, but it kind of, because it's so infrequent back home, it's not like it is here. You know, back home when the surf's on, you have to make it. And I got lynched for missing weddings and christenings, and I'd be late for my own funeral. You know how I am with timekeeping. You know. So yeah, that kind of almost dictated how my life went. You know, it was just anything to get to the beach, and when there was waves, I just dropped everything and went and that's how it started here. And then all of a sudden, there's just the surfing side of things, and then the music side of things, and then the level of artistry, not just through music, but everything on this island. It's just so interconnected. You know, I've never seen so many. It's like a hub of artistic people, you know. Everywhere you go, there's somebody doing something which anywhere else in the world you go, holy shit. The wood carvings, the stone carvings, the painters, the musicians. I mean, just for example, we've got a couple of musicians that play at the Orchard there who are real organic souls, you know, who they make instruments that aren't even really an instrument. You know, they build a guitar.
What's this guy's name? He's up.
Rizal and the Resendria.
Is he the guy that lives in Ubud, based in Ubud?
Yeah, that's
and
a
he
kid.
Does these
yeah,
sort of didgeridoo type guitar / megaphone.
Actually, looks
xylophone,
like something out of Terminator, right?
Yeah,
you know?
like you could almost plug your phone into it somewhere. Like they're just mental instruments. He's just on a trip. It's like he's on a mushroom trip, and then just reaches into the trip and pulls out something into reality and goes, "You can
That'll
play
work."
this.
Yeah.
It'll work."
And I mean, it's just I never, and again, sort of without going too back to the origin, this is one of the things which keeps me so alive. Really, is that like I never feel every single week, no matter how many bookings we have and no matter how many gigs we have, every week at some point, and it's generally not once or twice, it's generally a few times. We'll have this moment where I'll be stood in the Orchard and everything else just drowns out, and it doesn't matter who's there. I'll be looking at stage, and you know, unknowingly, I'm stood there with my jaw dropped. I'm just like, what the fuck? This is just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, I literally could be anywhere in the world. You know, I could be stood in front of centre stage at Glastonbury. And some of the quality of these musicians, the world needs to see, man. It's just off the hook, you know. And we'll never ever, and I will never ever just be a venue to book top 40 to make music. That it's not about that, man. The whole ethos is about pushing musicians and actually getting the recognition what they deserve. Anyone who's put into this country and has been a part of this country, or like yourself, like Phil, you know, they get it. You know, the first 2 years is usually utter madness because it's like, oh, there's a party every night, let's do that. You know, and then you tie and you work with it. It's still going on.
No, you're absolutely
let's interview
right.
you. So.
No, that's a big point, though. I mean, and you know, like I was editor for the Beat for the first 2 years. That's why I moved here. That's what brought me here. Was I got the job editing for the Beat and writing, and I was writing at the time, and I kind of really gave up music to move here because I didn't.
Travesty.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that there would be some gigs here because the first time I ever came to Bali, I ended up doing 6 gigs while I was here, and that was great. But I didn't move here to play music. I moved here to be an editor and writer for the Beat magazine.
Yeah.
And in that time, I mean, it was the Beat magazine. It's a gig guide, but the gigs were predominantly DJ gigs. So we're talking nightclubs, we're talking parties, so for 2 years I didn't get to know that music scene. I sort of saw glimpses of it. You know, the Beat put on Beat Rock Fest, and I saw these great musicians. I saw Kaim Sasiku, and
nice.
you know, I met these guys. I became mates with Ian, and I saw this music scene that was apparent, but I didn't really see it enough. I got caught up in this whole world of just going out and living the nightlife, and just let's not talk about it too much. But once you see it, once you realise it's there, it's really strong, you know, and everyone's really tight within it, and there really isn't enough. Well, it didn't seem like for quite a while there was enough music venues to even push it. I just felt like, man, there's so much talent here. Where there aren't enough venues.
Yeah.
And you know, the few venues that
oozing with talent, literally bursting at the seams and bubbling and brimming over with talent. You know, I there's not enough days in the week for me to book the talent. And this is we know quite a lot of the bands and stuff that do the regular circles and stuff like that. But what we try and do, or I personally try and do, is I'm constantly looking for new acts and constantly looking for new acts that are coming through towns or unrecognised acts. And this is what keeps it fresh and new for us. And we like to try and kind of pioneer slightly, and really bring something new into town. If there's a lot of crazy stuff going on now, where there's the traditional gamelan instruments, they're crossing over with these, and there's some amazing sounds coming out between the Western world and what we have in Indonesia and stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever hear that? Did you ever listen to Mr. Bungle? So Mr. Bungle it's one of my all-time ever favourite bands. It's the singer from Faith No More, Mike Patton.
Oh right, who
I consider the god of vocals. Not because I consider it, because he is. It's him singing for this just mad outfit of misfit musicians, and they're just mental. And they their music can be like just flicking the dial on a radio controller and just skimming through channels at the same time, because you go, they just mix up so many different styles of music. But there's one album, I think it was the third album called Californication, or California, sorry. And the last track, I think it is Goodbye Sober Day, or Unsober Day.
So very ironic that you like that song.
Goodbye Sober Day, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I think that basically was the soundtrack to my whole life. On that track, I don't think I'd even been to Bali yet, actually. So I wouldn't have really known what it was, but they mixed the Kachak singing. That's how you pronounce it.
Nice.
Yeah. And so man, it's this full ripping rock song, and it's out there, and then right at the end it's just chaka 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 chaka. Like Mike Patton starts doing all the vocals, and then in slides this heavy electric guitar, just jing 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 jing.
Nice.
Oh man, it's mental. It's off the hook. I'll play it for you later.
Imagine doing that live with the actual full.
Yeah, I was just thinking how
insane.
awesome it would be if, like, at the Orchard, you actually got is it blasphemy? I don't know. Maybe it's. Can you do that? I don't know.
Not sure.
Can you pull? I wonder if that would actually be upsetting for some people, but it would be pretty interesting to see a real mix of that old school, the gamelan just mixed in with some electric guitar. I mean,
it'd be nice. I mean, if it isn't sort of a disrespectful thing to do as well, then it'd be a very nice way of exposing that side of the Indonesian stuff as well. And then the
absolutely. I mean, I think those crossovers are brilliant. I mean, it's certainly not anything you'd ever want to do if too many people were like, no, you're actually taking the piss, like like using a Balinese prayer offering as an advertisement for your company. There's things that have been done where you're like, that's sort of pushing the envelope a bit. You might be hurting someone there. But if it wasn't disrespectful, it'd sound pretty damn good. Yeah,
that's food for thought right there, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Let's get some gamelan down there.
Definitely, man.
So what's going on in the next little bit of time? Have you got big things happening, big plans, any changes?
Yeah, we've well, to be honest, it was supposed to be happening in November this year, so 2 months really. We're planning on knocking out the back wall and extending the venue by at least another hour, potentially two. The reason being is I've got some great connections and such as for bringing bands into the Orchard, but the thing is the level of bands that some of the bands that we want to bring in, obviously they're just way out of our budget, and although we do have some.
Elton John's just asking too much.
Yeah,
is it his rider you're worried about?
No, I mean, he's all right. I'm just not sure about his glasses.
You don't want to challenge him, mate.
But what we'd actually like to do is, I'm hooked up with quite a few very good international artists, and what I'd like to do is bring them in to work alongside Indonesian musicians as well, and basically have a big gig at least once a month or once every 2 months where we bring in an international artist. And the prequel to that is sort of, for example, a Sunday afternoon where we'd start with just Indonesian band after Indonesian band after Indonesian band, just building up to the main event, And then as time goes by, there's actually something in the pipeline at the moment where we're putting together a project with certain Indonesian musicians with a certain very well-established English drummer. It's probably going to start in December. So back to the original question about will there be some major changes? Yeah, monstrous changes coming, but we're looking at probably February now because we're going to have to close for a month. We're knocking out the back wall. We're extending the kitchen. We're also going to put in a top deck as well. So realistically, the venue should be about 500 people venue by
Wow,
that
big
point.
things, man. So you're already under the pump. You're really putting yourself under the waterfall, aren't you?
It's looking more appealing by the second.
And do you? I mean, big things. That's awesome. I mean, when does it calm down for you? Is that the ultimate for you to have a 500 seat venue with a decent arena to look down and bring in international acts? Is that where you'd go, this is awesome, I'm gonna let this roll now and just sit on this, or are you?
You know me, I can't sit still, man. Like, that is for this project. Definitely, this is where I want to take this. But in the grand scheme, what we'd actually like to do is, as you know, in when was it? April this year, we did a Orchard Out, where we hooked up with a band that are very close to us, but a band called PB Underground.
Yeah.
The crew from
did that show at the 66 Rooftop.
66 Rooftop, yeah, and we did it there because we just couldn't. We didn't have the capacity to hold the crowd
Successful,
that we.
Yeah. Good night.
Yeah, sell out. Yeah, it was.
Nice.
We had 3 weeks to put it together, which I will never, ever attempt ever again in my life.
I wouldn't have brought you up on the rooftop at that point in your life. You were looking
you wouldn't have needed to. I'd have been up here before you.
Yeah, you didn't look like the man that surfed and was in the sun ever.
I was a mess at the time, yeah. But we got there, and it was a very successful gig, and it really sort of set a benchmark for me at, like, do you know what, if I can do that in 3 weeks, then what can be achieved in 6 months without hinting too much at future projects, like a festival, like a 2-day festival, which is all about Indonesia, but actually bringing a big international band as well, so that all the Indonesian musicians that we have, they're all part of this.
They're all brought into the spotlight with that
They're all brought into the
international
spotlight, and they
artist.
get as much coverage as what an international artist does. And if it's an international artist and it's getting international coverage, then it goes hand in hand.
Well, the scope's obviously coming for it. I mean, there's Festival coming up, and that's doing the same thing. There's a lot of local bands on the bill. Alt J's headlining. That's probably going to have already passed by the time we air this, because we're airing this probably just after that. But that's all coming to play, which is fantastic. So if you can add to that, I mean, you've got the breadth of experience now. If you've raised a venue from the ground and you've watched it grow from one single sort of acoustic night to the band you got now, and then you've put on shows at 66 Rooftop, it all adds up, doesn't it? And I mean, once you get those formulas in place, you can do it. You understand how it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I was speaking to a friend earlier today, and he said it's come a fair way since I saw it as a laundry, like.
It was a laundry before, wasn't it? The Orchard.
It was a laundry and a cost.
I'd love to be at the Orchard and see some dude rock up with a pile of dirty clothes and just go, "What the fuck? What the fuck with the?"
We do get quite a few people there in the dirty laundry in there, like, but that's a whole different thing.
Mate, I've made a lot of my laundry dirty there, but believe me. Classic.
You're welcome.
Well, mate, been really good having you on the show. And look, that sun is looking glorious. Well, it's disappeared, but is that the moon just
creeping through?
Just creeping up there, looking good.
Very decent, mate.
Well, before we get completely overtaken by moths and mosquitoes and we can't see well and we fucking end up in the rice paddies down below, let's sign off. But good chatting to you.
Yeah, man, brother.
Coming in,
Thanks
dude.
very much, man. My pleasure. Absolute
Fun
pleasure.
times. Ladies and Mungeyes, signing out.
Cheers, guys.
See you next time.
Still here?
Probably not. He said he was going to go down and listen to it later. It's funny the whole time you're talking, you have to have this...
I mean, pointing at him and stuff.
You always have that feeling like someone's there.
What the fuck?
Not there.
Probably in the rice paddy. Probably fell off. Someone. I just started talking to you.